The night was quiet at the edge of the colony, too quiet, as if the world itself was holding its breath. The abandoned dock was a forgotten place where no ship landed anymore. Rusted metal walls creaked when the wind pushed against them. Old containers stood like silent giants, shadows covering their broken sides. Inside a small repair shop near the dock, a human mechanic worked alone. His name was Daniel. His hands were black with grease. His clothes torn at the edges. He was fixing an old generator. Sparks flying each time he touched the wrong wire. He muttered to himself, half angry, half tired. This was his life, machines, silence, and loneliness. But tonight would be different. Tonight something was coming. Something that would change everything. A sound echoed through the dark dock. Not the hum of machines or the whistle of wind. It was softer, weaker, like a cry. Daniel froze. His eyes narrowed as he listened. Again the sound came. A whimper mixed with labored breathing. Slowly, he put down his tools. The hair on the back of his neck stood. He stepped outside. The dock was lit only by one broken lamp flickering on and off. Shadows stretched long and thin. In the distance, something moved, staggering closer. At first, Daniel thought it was just a drunk colonist, but then he saw the glow. Faint silver skin shining under the broken light. His breath caught. An alien, a female, her body weak, shoulders shaking, her arms cradling something close to her chest. Daniel's heart pounded as she stumbled forward. Nearly falling, he rushed to her, though fear whispered in his mind. Aliens rarely came here, and when they did, it was never good news. She looked at him with wide, tear-filled eyes. Her lips trembled as she tried to speak. "Help, please." Her voice was cracked. She fell to her knees, clutching the bundle tighter. Daniel dropped beside her. He saw the bundle move. A tiny hand, small and fragile. A baby, an alien baby. Daniel felt his chest tighten. He was no hero. Just a poor mechanic barely surviving. Yet here was this dying mother looking at him with desperate eyes. He shook his head slowly. I don't understand," he whispered. The alien woman coughed, blood staining her lips. She pulled the baby closer to him. "Take her," she begged. Her voice broke into sobs. "They will come. They will take her. You must protect her." Her silver eyes filled with tears, and one rolled down her cheek, glowing faintly before falling. Daniel's hands trembled as she pressed the baby into his arms. The warmth of the child shocked him, so alive, so fragile. The baby opened its eyes for a moment, bright, glowing with a strange light. Daniel gasped. His heart raced. He had never seen anything like this. "Wait," he stammered. "Why me? I can't." "You must," the alien mother whispered. Her breathing was shallow now, her body giving up. "Humans are strong. Humans do not give up." Her voice faded with each word. "Promise me. Promise me." Daniel felt something heavy crush his chest. This was no ordinary night. This was no ordinary request. He looked at the baby, then at the mother. Her face was pale, her tears endless. Slowly he nodded, his throat tight. "I promise," he said softly. The alien mother gave a weak smile. Her hand touched the baby's cheek one last time. Then her arm fell, lifeless, her body stilled, her eyes closed. Silence swallowed the dock again, but Daniel's heart thundered like a war drum. He sat there frozen, holding the baby against his chest. The child made a soft sound, not quite human, not quite alien, something in between. Daniel looked around the dock, fear settling deep inside him. He knew the mother's words were true. Whoever hunted her would come. Maybe soon, maybe now. The broken lamp flickered, casting long shadows across the empty containers. He felt eyes on him, though no one was there. He carried the baby inside his workshop, placing her gently on a pile of clean cloth. His hands shook as he touched her small fingers. The baby's glowing eyes blinked up at him, innocent, unknowing. He whispered to himself, "What have I done?" Suddenly outside, a distant thud echoed, a sound of heavy boots on metal. Daniel froze, his promise burned in his mind. He looked at the child, then at the door. Shadows moved under the flickering lamp again. Something was coming, and he was not ready, but he had promised. And promises could not be broken. The night was no longer quiet. The hunt had begun. Daniel sat in silence, the baby lying on the cloth beside him. The workshop smelled of oil and iron, but tonight it also carried the faint scent of the alien mother's last breath. His heart still raced, his mind spinning. He had promised, he had spoken the word, and it chained him now. The baby blinked at him with glowing eyes, small hands opening and closing, She was helpless, fragile, and yet her presence filled the room with strange weight. Daniel leaned forward, whispering, "What am I supposed to do with you?" His voice shook. He was a mechanic, not a fighter, not a father. The silence broke again. Boots echoed outside. Closer this time, Daniel's stomach tightened. His workshop door rattled as if someone touched it. His breath stopped. He pressed his back to the wall, listening. The sound of low voices floated in, harsh and cold. "She came through here," one said. "The tracker is never wrong," another voice hissed. "Find the child." "That's all that matters." Daniel felt his throat dry. He turned to the baby, who made a small noise, almost a cry. He quickly scooped her into his arms, rocking her gently. "Shh, not now, please." "Not now." The voices moved around the dock. Boots clanging against metal plates, Daniel's heart pounded harder. The mother's words returned to him. "They will come. You must protect her." He shut his eyes tight, pressing his forehead to the child's. "I promised," he whispered. "I promised her." The door creaked. A shadow passed under it. Daniel's hand reached for the closest tool, a heavy wrench. It was all he had. His workshop was full of broken machines and scraps. Not weapons, but he was a mechanic. And mechanics survived by using whatever they had. The shadow lingered, then moved on. Boots echoed farther away. For now, they hadn't entered. Daniel let out the breath he had been holding. He gently laid the baby back on the cloth. Her tiny chest rose and fell, steady, unaware of the danger outside. Daniel sat on the floor, head in his hands. He thought of walking away. He thought of leaving the baby at the dock and running. He was nobody, no soldier, no hero. But then he remembered the mother's silver eyes, her tears, her last breath spent begging him. "Promise me." He clenched his fists. A promise was a chain, but it was also a shield. He had lived his life fixing dead machines, ignored by the world, but maybe for the first time, something greater was asked of him. He stood, pacing the workshop. "All right," he muttered. "All right then. If I'm keeping you alive, we need to move. We can't stay here." Not with them outside. He began gathering tools, a welding torch, a sharp piece of scrap metal shaped like a blade, a small bag for food and water. He wasn't sure where he would go, only that he had to leave. The baby made another sound, soft and curious. Daniel paused, staring at her. For a strange moment, he felt something stir in him. Something he had not felt in years, responsibility, and beneath it, a spark of courage. Outside, the voices grew distant, fading toward the far end of the dock. Daniel knew this was his chance. He scooped up the baby, wrapping her in cloth so her glowing eyes wouldn't give them away. He slipped out the back door of the workshop, his steps silent. The dock stretched ahead, dark and broken. His breath fogged in the cold air. He moved between rusted containers, every sound echoing like thunder to his ears. The baby stirred in his arms, but did not cry. He whispered softly to her. "Good girl, stay quiet, we'll get through this." Halfway across the dock, Daniel froze. A tall figure stood at the far end, armor glinting faintly in the light. The hunter turned, scanning the shadows. Daniel pressed himself against a container, heart hammering. The baby shifted, and for a moment he feared she would cry. The hunter took a step closer, raising a strange device that pulsed with light. A tracker, Daniel realized. He swallowed hard. The baby's warmth pressed against his chest, reminding him of the promise. He tightened his grip on the scrap blade hidden in his sleeve, ready if it came to that, but fate spared him this time. A distant call echoed. "Over here!" She left something. The armored figure turned, then walked away. Daniel let out another shaky breath. His legs trembled, but he forced himself to move again, slipping into the dark alleys that led out of the dock. Finally, he reached the edge of the colony lights. Beyond lay the maze of forgotten streets, where machines rotted and the poor lived in silence. He stopped, leaning against a wall. The baby still in his arms, he looked down at her. Her glowing eyes half closed. Her tiny hand reached out, touching his chest as if sensing his fear. Daniel's throat tightened. He whispered to her, "I don't know what you are, or why they want you, but you're mine now. I promised her, and I'll keep it no matter what comes." The words surprised even him, but once spoken they felt heavy and true. A vow carved into stone. Behind him, alarms began to echo from the dock. The hunters had found the mother's body. Soon, they would know someone had taken the baby, and when they knew, they would not stop. Daniel turned his back to the dock and stepped into the darkness of the colony, carrying the alien child close to his chest. His promise burned brighter than his fear. The hunt was not over, it was only beginning. The colony never slept, even in the dead of night. Neon lights buzzed above broken alleys, and the hum of old machines filled the air. Daniel moved quickly through the maze of narrow streets. The baby wrapped tightly in his arms. Each step echoed in his head like a drumbeat. His heart thudded harder than his footsteps. The child stirred, her glowing eyes peeking through the cloth. Daniel quickly adjusted the fabric, hiding her face. "Not now," he whispered. "You must stay hidden." The mother's last words haunted him. "They will come. They will take her." He knew she was right. He felt it in the air behind him. Distant alarms from the dock screamed through the night. Red lights began to flash in the distance. He cursed under his breath. They had found the body, they knew, and now they would come for him. Daniel ducked into an old market street, stalls empty and dark. He pressed his back to a rusted frame. Forcing himself to breathe, he was no soldier. But he had survived broken machines, collapsing platforms, and years of loneliness. He knew how to fix what others thought was dead. Maybe that skill would save him now. The sound of boots came again, closer, heavy, organized. Not the steps of lost colonists. Shadows moved at the far end of the street. Daniel's blood turned cold. He held the baby tighter. Pressing her against his chest, he couldn't fight them head on, not with nothing but a scrap blade and a wrench. He scanned the street, eyes darting. Then he saw it, an old service hatch half buried under a pile of junk. He rushed forward, kicking the trash aside. The hatch screeched as he forced it open. Inside was a narrow shaft, dark and damp, but it led to the underlevels, the forgotten veins of the colony. Daniel slid in, clutching the baby. The hatch closed just as the boots entered the street. He held his breath, the hunters' voices echoed above. "She was here," one growled. "The trail is fresh," another hissed. "Check the corners. Don't let the human rats hide her." Daniel didn't move. Sweat slid down his neck. The baby shifted in his arms, and for a terrifying second she made a tiny sound, a whimper. Daniel pressed her gently, whispering, "Shh, little one, please." His heart pounded so loud he thought they might hear it. The hunters stomped above, metal clanging under their weight. After what felt like hours, their steps faded. Daniel exhaled slowly. His legs shook, but he forced himself to crawl deeper into the shaft. The air grew colder, the darkness thicker. The underlevels were dangerous, filled with broken pipes, leaking steam, and old machines that had been abandoned for decades. But it was better than facing armored hunters. Daniel moved through the tight space, his back scraping against rusted metal. The baby stayed quiet now, as if she understood the danger. Finally, he reached an exit and pushed it open. He stepped into a wide chamber filled with old machinery. Sparks flickered from broken wires. Puddles of oil reflected the faint glow of failing lights. Daniel looked around. It was a dead place, but it was a place to hide. He laid the baby down on a ragged cloth, wiping sweat from his face. "We made it. For now," he whispered. His body trembled with exhaustion, but his mind refused to rest. He had only delayed them, not stopped them. A sudden noise made him spin, a faint clicking echoing through the chamber. His eyes narrowed. He crouched low, gripping his wrench out of the shadows. A drone crawled forward, its red eye blinking. An old colony surveillance unit, but its lens glowed with fresh energy. Someone had reactivated it, Daniel cursed. He lunged forward, smashing the drone with the wrench. Sparks flew. The machine collapsed in pieces. The baby startled, letting out a sharp cry. Daniel froze, the sound echoing too loud in the chamber. And then came the reply, distant but clear, boots again. Echoing down the tunnels the hunters had heard. Panic surged through him. He grabbed the baby, holding her close. He scanned the machines, searching for an idea. His eyes landed on an old fuel line, half broken but still leaking vapor. His mechanic's mind clicked into place. He set the baby down in a hidden nook between pipes, covering her with cloth. "Stay, little one. I'll come back," he whispered. His hands worked fast, wrench twisting, sparks flying. He pulled wires from the wall, directing them near the fuel leak. The boots grew louder, voices shouting in alien tongue. Daniel backed away, sweat pouring down his face. He held the torch in his hand, ready. The first hunter entered the chamber, tall and armored, glowing visor sweeping the room. Daniel waited silent in the shadows. When 3 of them stepped inside, he struck. He sparked the wires. Fire roared as the vapor ignited. Flames burst across the chamber. Heat slammed against Daniel's face. The hunters shouted in rage and surprise, stumbling as the machines erupted. Daniel grabbed the baby from her hiding spot and ran. The fire spread behind him, filling the chamber with smoke and chaos. He didn't look back, he couldn't, his lungs burned. His arms ached, but he kept moving. Finally, he burst into another tunnel, the roar of fire fading behind. He leaned against the wall, gasping for air. The baby stirred but stayed quiet. Her tiny glowing eyes looked up at him as if asking what had happened. Daniel whispered hoarsely, "I told her I'd protect you, and I will. I swear it," his voice shook. But the promise grew stronger. Behind them, alarms and angry voices filled the tunnels. The hunters would not stop. They would never stop. Daniel knew the first hunt had only just begun, and he would have to be smarter, faster, and braver than he had ever been in his life. The colony streets glowed with broken neon signs, colors bleeding red and blue across puddles of dirty water. Daniel stumbled into the open air from the underlevels, coughing smoke from his lungs. His arms clutched the alien baby close. Her small body was warm against him. Her glowing eyes hidden under cloth. He didn't stop. He couldn't. The fire he had set would not hold the hunters forever. They would come again, stronger and angrier. The colony was awake now, alarms echoing through the air. Shutters closed as colonists hid in their homes. Doors slammed shut as if the whole city feared what walked its streets. Daniel darted down a narrow alley, boots splashing through shallow water. He pressed himself against a wall, peering around the corner. A patrol of armored hunters marched through the main street, their visors glowing like eyes of predators. One carried a scanner, its light sweeping the ground, searching for a trace. Daniel's stomach tightened. He backed away. He couldn't face them in the open. He needed shadows. He needed tricks. He remembered the maze of service tunnels that ran beneath the market district. Half-forgotten routes used long ago by smugglers if he could reach them. He might vanish from the hunter's eyes. The baby stirred, her small hands pushing against the cloth. Daniel hushed her gently. "Almost there, little one. Just hold on." He moved fast through the alleys, weaving between broken stalls and crumbling buildings. His ears picked up every sound, clanking armor, heavy boots, static from comms. The hunters spread like a net. Closing in, suddenly a voice rang out, harsh and commanding, "Human!" "Stop where you are." Daniel's blood ran cold. He turned his head slowly. Two hunters stood at the far end of the alley, their weapons raised. He gripped the wrench hidden under his coat, but his hands trembled. He couldn't fight them head-on, not with the baby. His eyes scanned the alley desperately. Then he saw it, an old hover cart half buried under trash. Its battery was dead, but the frame still looked solid. Daniel sprinted forward. Slamming his foot against the side, the cart toppled over, sending crates crashing to the ground. Dust and noise exploded through the alley. The hunters shouted, their visors flashing as they tried to push through the mess. Daniel didn't wait. He ducked into a side passage. The baby pressed tightly against him. His heart pounded, sweat stung his eyes. His whole body screamed to stop, but his legs kept moving. He reached the edge of the market district. Lights flickered overhead, broken signs buzzing. He spotted a grate near the ground, half loose. Behind it was darkness, the smuggler's tunnels. He dropped to his knees, pulling the grate free with both hands. Metal screeched against stone. He slid inside just as heavy boots thundered behind him. The tunnels swallowed him in darkness. The air was damp, thick with mold and oil. He crouched low, moving carefully. Every sound echoed like thunder here. He whispered to the baby, "Stay quiet, little one. Stay with me." Her glowing eyes blinked at him from under the cloth, innocent, trusting. Voices echoed above. Muffled but close, the hunters were searching. Their scanners hissed as they swept the streets. Daniel pushed deeper into the tunnels, his hands brushing against wet stone. He reached a fork and hesitated. Left or right? Both paths looked the same. Then he remembered, years ago as a boy he had followed smugglers through here. The left tunnel led to the drainage canals. The right to the abandoned tram lines. He chose the tram lines. They would give him more cover, more space to move. The tunnel opened into a wide cavern where broken tram tracks stretched into the dark. Daniel's breath caught. The old vehicles stood like metal skeletons, doors hanging open, wires dangling like vines. He slipped inside one, crouching low. The baby stirred again. Making a soft sound, he rocked her gently. I know, you're scared, but we'll make it. I promise." Through the cracks in the tram's windows, Daniel saw faint lights moving. Hunters had entered the tunnels, their scanners glowing red. They moved slowly, methodically, sweeping the shadows. Daniel's heart hammered. He pressed himself lower, praying they wouldn't hear the baby. One hunter paused near the tram, visor turning. Daniel held his breath. His hands tightened around the wrench, ready to strike if the door opened. The baby shifted in his arms, and for a terrifying second he thought she would cry. But then a burst of static came from the hunter's comm. "Sector clear, move on." The armored figure turned away, footsteps fading into the tunnel. Daniel let out a shaky breath. His chest burned from holding it in. He pressed his forehead to the baby's, whispering, "You saved us somehow, you stayed quiet. Good girl." When the hunters moved deeper into the tunnels, Daniel slipped out of the tram, keeping low. He followed the tracks until he found a ladder leading upward. He climbed slowly, pushing open a hatch. The night air hit him again. He stepped onto a rooftop overlooking the colony. Neon lights glowed below. Sirens wailed in the distance. The city was alive with fear. Daniel held the baby close, staring out at the chaos. He was no longer just a mechanic. He was a fugitive carrying the most hunted child in the colony. The hunters would not stop. They would never stop, but he had promised. And his promise was the only weapon he had. He whispered into the night, "As long as I breathe, they won't take you." And with that vow burning in his chest, Daniel slipped back into the shadows, the flight through the colony far from over. Daniel sat inside a dark room lit only by a flickering blue light. It was an old storage unit on the edge of the colony's industrial zone. He had sealed the doors with scrap metal, stacked machines against the windows, and hung thick cloth to block the glowing eyes of the baby from the outside world. She slept in a small metal box lined with soft rags. Breathing quietly, her silver skin shimmered in the dim light. Her tiny fingers moved slowly as if dreaming. Daniel paced the room, his nerves stretched thin, his body ached, and his mind ran in circles. Who was this baby? Why did they want her so badly? What kind of child made elite alien hunters tear apart a colony just to find her? He picked up a small scanner he had found earlier. It was half broken, but he was a mechanic. After some rewiring and patience, it lit up with a soft hum. He approached the sleeping baby, hands trembling slightly. "I'm not trying to hurt you, little one," he whispered. "I just need to know what you are." He waved the scanner over her, and the screen lit up with strange symbols. The readings didn't make sense. Her life signs were off the charts: heart rate, energy levels, even molecular density. Everything was not normal, and then the scanner glitched, buzzed, and shut down completely. The baby opened her eyes, glowing, soft and deep. And for a second, Daniel felt something push into his thoughts, a warmth, a wave of emotion that wasn't his. He stumbled back, shaking his head. His skin tingled, his eyes wide with shock. "What was that?" he whispered. The baby blinked again and turned her head to him. She cooed softly. Reaching out with one hand, Daniel hesitated, then stepped forward and let her grip his finger. The strange feeling returned, this time not like pressure in his head, but like a memory not his own. He saw images, brief flashes of stars, warships, explosions, a planet burning, and a woman's face. The alien mother, younger, proud, standing in front of a glowing chamber. The baby released his finger, and the vision vanished. Daniel gasped, sweat dripping down his face. He leaned against the wall, breathing hard. She wasn't just a baby. She was connected to something greater. He looked at the broken scanner, then at the glowing child. "You're not just special, you're powerful," he whispered. "You might be the key to something much bigger." Then it hit him. She wasn't being hunted just because she was born. She was born for something. The door suddenly creaked. Daniel grabbed his wrench, muscles tense. A voice whispered from the other side. "Don't hit me, it's just me, Juno." Daniel blinked in surprise. He opened the door slightly and saw a thin young woman with goggles and a dirty coat. She had been one of the few people in the colony who still spoke to him sometimes. "A fellow scavenger. What are you doing here?" Daniel asked, keeping the door mostly closed. "I saw the fires, the hunters," she said. "And I saw you disappear into the shadows. I knew something was going on. Then I heard their comms," she added, holding up a stolen earpiece. "They're hunting for a baby, not just any baby." "A royal," Daniel's stomach turned. "Royal?" Juno nodded. "Alien royal, like a high bloodline. One that was supposed to be extinct. Some say their bloodline holds control over ancient machines. Weapons that haven't worked in thousands of years." Daniel looked back at the baby, who stared at him calmly from her cloth nest, her tiny fingers glowing faintly. "She's not just a child," Daniel muttered. "She might be—" "The last of her kind." Juno stepped in and closed the door behind her. "They said if she's awakened, it could trigger something, a key, or maybe a weapon, maybe both." Daniel felt the weight of the child in his heart now. Heavier than ever, he had promised to protect her. But this wasn't just about kindness anymore. This was about survival for her and possibly for humanity. "She showed me things," he whispered, "in my head." Like memories, Juno's eyes widened. "Then it's true. She's linked to the neural pathways of ancient tech. They say only the royal bloodline could awaken them." The baby yawned. Innocent and unaware, her body glowed softly, lighting the room like a tiny star. Daniel sat beside her, shaking his head. "Why me? Why did her mother bring her to me?" Juno looked at him and said quietly, "Because maybe she saw something in you. Something even you don't see." A loud explosion echoed outside. Both Daniel and Juno looked up. "They found your trail," she said, eyes wide. "We need to move now." Daniel stood, wrapping the baby in cloth again. "Then we go underground again," he said, voice hard. "But this time, I'm not just running." Juno raised an eyebrow. "Then what are you doing?" He looked down at the baby, who now reached up to touch his chest. Her hand glowed slightly as if reacting to his heartbeat. "I'm protecting the future," he said. The sky above the colony was dark and stormy. Heavy clouds moved like waves, hiding the stars. Thunder rumbled in the distance. Daniel stood at the edge of the scrapyard, eyes scanning the metal graveyard before him. Behind him, Juno tightened a bolt on a pressure pipe, sparks flicking off her gloves. "If we're gonna make a stand, this is the place," she said. "Everything here is broken, but it's all useful in the right hands." Daniel nodded slowly. His eyes were tired but focused. The alien baby was wrapped tightly against his chest, safe, calm, and quiet. She had not cried once since they left the hiding room, as if she somehow knew danger was near all around them. The scrapyard stretched like a battlefield waiting to happen. Broken hover bikes, cracked robot arms, empty fuel tanks, and old mining gear lay in piles. Machines forgotten by time, but not by Daniel. He had spent years fixing what others gave up on, and now he would turn this junkyard into his shield. Juno pointed to a pile of metal pipes. "We can load these with gas, cut a spark line, then boom," she said. Daniel gave a small smile. "Remind me not to make you angry." They worked fast, hands dirty, sweat dripping down their faces. Daniel rewired broken drones to flash and spin when triggered. He turned a heavy loader arm into a swinging trap and set sharp gears as spike strips. Every step he took, he thought of the baby's glowing eyes, and the mother who gave her life to protect her. He hadn't asked for this, but he had accepted it. A promise made in tears could not be broken. Juno set up a trap at the scrapyard gate, covering it with rusted plates. "This will slow them down," she said. "But not for long," Daniel nodded again, placing the baby into a soft space inside an old mining pod, surrounded by thick walls and reinforced steel. He kissed her forehead gently. "Stay here, little one," he whispered. "I'll come back for you." He sealed the pod and turned back to Juno. "They'll come fast," he said. "We hit hard, we run. We draw them away from her." Juno checked her blade. A long piece of sharpened metal welded to a pipe. "Then let's make some noise." As if the storm had been waiting for their words, lightning struck nearby. The sky flashed, thunder rolled, and the hunters arrived. 3 of them dropped from a ship that hovered above like a silent bird of death. Their armor glowed faintly, red visors searching the dark. One of them held a scanner already pulsing with light. "They're here," Juno whispered. Crouching beside Daniel, he looked at her. "Ready?" She grinned. "Born ready." Daniel tossed a chunk of metal across the yard. It clanged loud and sharp. One of the hunters turned sharply and stepped forward, triggering the first trap. A spinning drone burst into life. Flashing lights and sirens, the hunter fired, but it was already too late. The distraction gave Daniel time to strike. He swung a steel arm down from above, slamming into the second hunter's chest. It cracked armor and sent the creature flying. The third one raised a weapon, but Juno was faster. She lit the spark line with her torch, and the pipe bomb exploded. Fire lit the yard as metal flew. Smoke rising into the sky, Daniel grabbed another tool. A high-powered cutter turned into a blaster and fired. Sparks flying into the dark. The hunters were wounded but not done. The first one stood again, armor cracked, its eyes burned red. It spoke in a language Daniel didn't understand, but the meaning was clear. "Give us the child." Daniel stood firm, chest rising with deep breath. "Come and take her," he said. The battle roared louder, fire danced across the scrap. Lightning flashed overhead. Daniel fought with every part of him, mind, hands, memory. He knew these machines better than the hunters ever could. One trap snapped a hunter's leg. Another sprayed blinding oil into their visors. Daniel dodged a plasma shot by rolling behind a junked tank. Juno cried out as she was thrown back by a blast. Daniel ran to her, helped her up. "Can you move?" She winced, blood on her forehead. "I can still fight." Together, they drew the last two hunters toward the far side of the yard, just where Daniel had set the largest trap. He slammed his boot into the ground, triggering a hidden wire. A stack of fuel drums rolled forward, then exploded. The fireball lit the sky like a second sun. Hunters screamed and vanished in smoke and flame. When the fire faded, silence returned. Daniel dropped to his knees, chest heaving. Rain starting to fall above them. Juno crawled to his side, coughing. Did we win?" He looked toward the mining pod, still sealed, still quiet. He stood slowly and walked over, hands shaking. He opened the pod. The baby blinked up at him. Safe, glowing softly, he picked her up and held her close, warmth filling his chest again. Juno limped behind him, smiling weakly. "We did it," Daniel said, eyes fixed on the horizon. "But this won't be the end." "No," Juno said. "It's just the beginning." Smoke still rose from the scrapyard, turning the early morning sky dark and heavy. Rain dripped softly from metal roofs, washing away the dust, blood, and ash of the night's battle. Daniel stood in silence near the edge of the colony, the alien baby held close to his chest, wrapped in warmth and cloth. Juno leaned against a broken light pole nearby, her arm in a sling made of old wires. Bruises across her face, but her eyes still sharp. She looked at Daniel and the baby, then back at the yard behind them where sparks still flickered from broken machines. "No one will come here again," she said. "Not after what we did." Daniel gave a small nod. His face was calm, but inside his chest, his heart was still heavy. The colony wasn't safe anymore. The hunters were gone, for now, but others would follow. He could feel it in his bones. "She's not safe here," he said softly. "Not with people too scared to help and too poor to care." Juno looked at the baby, who yawned softly. Her silver skin shimmered under the cloth. Her glowing eyes opened for a moment, meeting Juno's gaze and then closing again. "Then where will you go?" Juno asked. Daniel looked out at the rising sun behind the clouds, gold light trying to break through the gray. "There's a place past the outer stations," he said. "An old outpost no one uses anymore. I fixed ships there once long ago." Juno raised an eyebrow. "You're gonna raise her alone?" He nodded slowly. "I promised." She was quiet for a long time, watching him gently rock the baby. Then she said, "You're not the same man who used to hide in that repair shop." "You've changed," Daniel smiled slightly. "I didn't want to, but she changed everything." They walked together through the colony's back routes. Avoiding cameras and guards, many people peeked from windows but said nothing. Rumors had already started, about the mechanic who fought off alien hunters, about the baby with glowing eyes, about the fire in the scrapyard. Daniel and Juno reached a small, half-broken landing pad behind an old warehouse. Covered in dust was a ship, rusted, dented but still intact. "You kept this thing running?" Juno asked in disbelief. Daniel patted the ship's side. "She's stubborn." Like me, he opened the hatch and they stepped inside. The controls lit up slowly as he pressed buttons, steam hissing from old vents. The baby stirred at the sound, eyes blinking open, looking around. Juno leaned in and gently touched the baby's small hand. "She's going to change the galaxy, isn't she?" Daniel nodded. "Not today, not tomorrow, but someday." A quiet pause passed between them. Then Juno took a deep breath. "You'll need supplies and help. I have a contact near Orion's Edge. Rebels, smugglers, people who still believe in doing the right thing. I'll send word you're coming." Daniel smiled. Touched. "Thank you, Juno," she shrugged. "You saved her. You fought back when everyone else hid. Maybe it's time people stopped being afraid." The ship's engines began to warm up. Humming low, Daniel held the baby tight, watching her eyes glow gently as the ship rumbled beneath them. He could feel her heartbeat through the cloth, steady, strong, and full of life. He looked at Juno one last time. If they come back, if they ask about us. I never saw you, she said quickly with a wink. And if they push too hard, they might meet some of those traps you left behind. Daniel laughed softly, the first real laugh in days. Then he stepped inside the cockpit, strapped in, and placed the baby safely beside him in a padded crate. He pressed a few buttons and the engines roared louder. The ship lifted from the ground, rising slowly into the sky. Outside, Juno watched with a small smile as the ship vanished into the clouds. Her hair blew in the wind, her eyes shining with something like hope. In the sky, the stars slowly returned inside the ship. Daniel watched the stars stretch as they left the colony behind. The baby cooed, waving her tiny hand at the lights. He spoke softly. You don't know it yet, little one, but you're going to do big things, but for now we'll find a safe place. We'll build a new life. He looked out the window, his hand steady on the controls. And if anyone tries to take you again, they'll find out just how dangerous a human mechanic can be. The stars glowed ahead, and the ship vanished into the black. A new journey had begun, not just for a baby from a dying alien bloodline, but for the man who had once been forgotten, now a guardian, a fighter, and a father.